Okay, well, welcome everyone to allow yourself to absorb that which is all individuals to go through a transition into a new way of being. The reason why there are more of us coming together in this non-physical form to speak with you who are willing to let us through, we have been nagging Bobbieg quite a lot to allow this to happen, for there's need for spirit to come through and be present to share with our physical friends what you need to know and hear for this transition that's coming forth. All of you who have come today know there's a transition. You can feel it. You're part of it. There's no mistake that you have chosen to be here. And each of you has a job to do, for lack of a better word. It's not that we're going to tell you you have to, but you're going to be drawn to being open, being aware, being present for the transitions that are happening. Now, what we'd like to explain to you is, there they are. And we had some other color things. There they are. What we would like to explain to you is most of you envision yourselves as this is you. You rather like that view of yourself? This is you. And your vision, my darlings, for most of you, and what you are being taught many times in your very spiritual beliefs, is inside of you is a heart, and there's your spirit. And your spirit from that place moves out and does things in the world. That's almost right. In reality, my darlings, this is your spirit. And you are inside that spirit. And that spirit is connected with all of this spirit here. Okay. You are swimming in a sea of spirit, your own spiritual essence that came forth to swim in this spiritual essence. This part here, the heart, is how you connect out to this spiritual energy. The more you connect out to the knowing of the spiritual energy that is you moving about the planet, and that you have taken all of this. Here's the challenge. Here's the thing that is incredible. You have taken this essence, which is actually as huge as all this, and you've not confined it, you've condensed it into this vehicle you call your body. That is an incredible feat. That is taking sunshine and making a body out of it. That is taking electricity and making it something that can walk and move and pretend to be solid on the planet. That's an incredible feat. You who have come forth here are incredibly courageous. That you have chosen to take this energy that just flows and feels really good and just, you know, when you're praying or when you're meditating, you're in that space that's just juicy. And then you notice you're in a body. And it's kind of, I'm back here. It's kind of like a dream, and then you're back in the body. But you have a powerful job to do, learning how to use that energy and bring that essence. Because doing this out here, you did for a really long time. And then you reached a point, well, what else can we do? Well, we know how to be expansive. We could go clear across the galaxy, beyond infinity. Wonder what it's like to get smaller. But you're not smaller. What's really, really important for you to understand about this, my darlings, is now is the time for you to move beyond this belief that this is all you are, into the essence of the spirit, so that when you're there, you see that this little being over here, a little different than you, but exactly the same, also has a spirit. And these beings down here all have spirit. The more you're in touch with your spiritual essence, the more all of you can touch one another's hearts. And it is in that touching, it is in that communication, it is in that knowing that the healing that needs to happen on this planet is going to begin. And this is very important right now, because in order to understand a lot of what it was to be physical, there was an illusion that we needed to bring about when we sent you to the planet, that you were separate. Because otherwise you would just pop into the knowing of the spiritual being and pop out of the body. And we needed you here. You needed you here. We all agreed this was going to happen. So there was the illusion of separateness, so you could find out what it is to be a physical being on a planet. Now, some of you have chosen, even in this lifetime, to have a very confined physical experience. That this is as good as it gets. You come here, you live, you die, and that's it. Some have no connection with spirit, or they believe they have no connection with spirit. We have found you have to have some connection with spirit, or you don't manage to exist in the body. It just doesn't work. And some of your mental illness comes from people who cannot connect with spirit. Some of it comes from people who are too connected with spirit. And some of it comes just from the damage happening on the planet. So we all agreed. When we say we want you to understand this is not we. We are not in charge. The spirit beings who are coming through Bobby right now are not in charge. We are in charge. This is a co-creation with you and us. It appears that we have more information than you. It appears that we're wiser. We have different information than you. We have the information from being on the mountain, being able to watch what's going on down here. And we understand from the mountain. But you understand from the body. You understand from being physical. And the more you communicate with us and share with us your essence of being here, the more you give us information to help you on your journey. Right now, more than for quite some time, it is very important in the transitions that will be happening over the next millennia for our communication with those of you who are capable and willing to commune with us and work with us. We are calling you forth in larger and larger numbers. We are calling you forth in many ways. Some are being called to traditional religions. Some are being called to business type expansion thought. Some of you are being called to these spiritual circles. There is no right or wrong way. There are many avenues, and we will use any and all avenues. The purpose is to get the expansion to happen, where you begin to connect from the heart to the heart, where you begin to see that you are all connected. You can't not be connected. This body is an illusion. It really blips in and out of time. Scientists are actually figuring this out. It blips in and out of time. You're here, you're not here, you're here, you're not here, you're here, you're not here. You're vibrating at a speed that allows you to see the chair as solid and you as solid. But in reality, all is energy. It's all pure positive energy. It is all God manifest in all its magnificent forms, as the chair, as the being, as the trees. It's all everywhere present. The illusion of separateness is causing great pain in your world. You have noticed this. It has caused people to think that they have to kill one another in order to prove that their way is the right way. That they have to make one another believe as they believe in order to be safe. And in reality, my darlings, the more you can appreciate the diversity that you have created here, it is phenomenal. Imagine your world as Disneyland. For that's what we see it as. It's Disneyland. And imagine that you came here. Now, all of you don't choose to go to Fairy Tale Town. All of you don't choose to go to Frontierland. All of you don't choose to go to Spiritual Land and Gregory readings. Each one of you chooses a different life. Some of you have chosen to be in a life where you grow up in a small village and you have close connections and you have family and you have connection in a very, very powerful way. Some of you have chosen to be in big, large cities. Some of you have chosen to live out away from people. Some of you have chosen to be spiritual and communion with God all the time. Some of you have chosen to not believe in God. I'm just a practical person and that's what it is and I say it and that's it. All of this is potential to play in. And the more you see the diversity as powerful and beautiful, you can have fun in Disneyland. How many of you have been to Disneyland? Have you ever gone over to somebody in Disneyland and said, I don't want you to go to Fairy Tale Town. Fairy Tale Town is not the right place to be. You better come to Frontierland with me. You wouldn't do that. Or if you did, the security people would come tell you that it wasn't okay. So why do you feel the need to go up and say, I see that you're Catholic. Well, I'm Christian and you can't be Catholic, so there. Why? If you're a Muslim, Muslims aren't okay. And you don't even believe. We gotta shoot you. That doesn't work. When you were small tribal village people, there was a sense of connection that we were working on. That we were working on finding out how it was to connect spiritually and emotionally and physically with other physical beings. And at that point, when we tried to come through, and we have come through in many different religions, in many different places, in many different belief systems, there was a being we would come through to, and that being would grasp it and try to share it with all the other beings. What we noticed is as that being tried to share from us through that brain to the words that they had to use in their society, to the individuals out there, the translation lost much. And then those beings who were translated to would go and take what they perceived and they heard, and they would go out and try to translate to other beings, and much got lost. So what we are about now, and what we have been called forth now to do, we are in the middle of a new experience and a new experiment here on planet Earth. This is our wanting that each and every one of you touch in to your knowing for spirit, so that you learn how to have that come through and be, for you, your direct experience of spirit. Each and every one of you are hardwired to have this experience. You are God, in God form, connecting with God or with spirit. We use spirit a lot instead of God because sometimes God has a whole bunch of stuff that it's hard for people to get through. So use the phraseology that works for you. But we are wanting individuals to begin to touch into their own knowing and their own capacity to channel spirit for themselves. You don't have to have Bobby or anybody else channel for you. And what we have noticed is if we bring forth certain individuals who allow our energy through, we can come through more powerfully so that you can feel the knowing in their presence. But we want you to hear this very clearly. When you feel the knowing inside of you, in the presence of Bobby, who is allowing us to come through, it is not Bobby doing it. And it is not only through her that you are hearing through your own personal guidance system. You are hearing through your own receiver. You could not hear anything that is coming through here today if you were not in touch with your own receiver. And so we challenge you to move into the next step that's out there. Mm-hmm. The next step, the best is yet to come. Be the solution you want to see. We challenge you to step into the knowledge to be response-able for your connection to spirit. Be willing to know that you know. Have the courage to allow that knowing to come forth and to say, I'm going to own this. Not ego own it, spirit own it. Okay. When that happens, your heart expands and everyone around you can feel that expansion. And as each of you moves out, you begin to move. All of this just takes it through the world. I mean, it just goes all over everything. And it begins to move everywhere. And in that energy, the world expands. The world expands when each and every one of you expand. It can't help it. Why you are here is the individuals in your world who have had the courage to go forth. We began to give you an idea of how it works with our work. We began this particular agenda with the Renaissance. Do any of you remember what year the Renaissance was?
Was it 1200?
14.
It's about 14 something.
Yeah,
1400.
that's what I was.
Although there was some stuff going on to get them ready. But that was the beginning of moving out. If you will recall, at that time there was a very darkness on the planet. There was a very negativity, a lot of pain, and people were beginning to implode in their holding on and their needing to have everything be one way. And it was creating a lot of problem. Now, you guys know it as the Renaissance. Throughout other societies, there were other movements happening and other things going on. But we're going to stick with what you and your culture know. So the Renaissance was the beginning. From the Renaissance, we moved to another huge burst around the 20s, when they got into the New Age, as you are calling it now, where they started doing seances, and they started having gatherings, and they started thinking in different ways. And it's kind of like it ebbs and flows. So the Renaissance brought it out a bunch. The 20s brought it out a bunch. And now we're here. It started with the 60s, and here we are in the 80s. All the people who came before helped create this for you. To give you an idea of where you're at in this, they were out in the ocean beginning the wave. The 20s began to fill the swell. You now are right here. The crest is out there. That's the next millennium. You're right here just before the crest. You're pushing the crest with your ideas and your willingness to move into the next millennium. Over the next 1,000 years, there will be huge shifts. And we want them to be positive shifts. We want them to allow us to continue to play on this beautiful planet that we have all co-created, my darlings. I mean, look out that window, or whatever window you can look out. That's beautiful. Did we not do a good job?
We did.
All of us together.
We did.
All of us together. Creating that beauty. Creating this place where we could play. And when we said that man would have dominion, we didn't mean you were going to step on it. We meant that you were going to have a domicile to play in. A domicile to play in, is that not different than the way it has been interpreted? So we wanted you to learn about it and to figure out how it works and to play with it. But now is time to work with that which we have created. So that is it's a combination of ecological, spiritual, emotional, financial, all of it fits together. It's all just energy, different ways for you to play with. And we're inviting you to become response-able, to become conscious. Conscious of your breathing, conscious of your body, conscious of your interaction. We want each and every one of you, we're giving you homework before we even start, to practice in this next week, going forth and envisioning yourself as your, what is it in the Star Trek? There is walking mostly bags of water.
That's true, huh?
And what is it Gene Houston calls it?
Skin bags.
Skin bags.
Skin bags. Dragging around skin bags.
Dragging around skin bags. So you have this energy. Begin to feel the essence of spirit around you. Begin to feel yourself as a spirit having a body, moving about the planet. Begin to feel your energy when it interacts with other beings. Begin to notice when you come in contact with some people who are and you can go, woo! And then see the love and the beauty hidden behind the fear and the pain. And emanate your love out to that individual and say, I love you. Thank you. I love you. Thank you. And be that energy that sends it out there to begin to move past the illusion of lack. The next step, my darlings, is responsibility, aliveness, awareness, and conscious living. Conscious living, where you will help co-create the world you want to have happen. Be the solution you want to see. It's not out there. It's in here. But it can't be in here without being out there because we're all one. So that is, let us take a moment to see if there's more that we wanted to share. That is much of what we have to say in the pre-talk. More will come out as you ask questions, and we invite you all to just let the questions come forth. We're going to take a moment, closing eyes and 3 cleansing breaths again, for you to center and let Spirit bring forth the questions for us to speak. Okay, center. Feel the shift in the energy, my darlings. Feel the energy around you. This room has gotten so much bigger. Yes. 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 Breathing in 1. Hold. And breathe out. Breathing in 2. Hold. And breathe out. Breathing in 3. Hold. And breathe out. So my darlings, we imagine that might have brought up a few wonderings or comments or whatever you feel free to speak. So who would like to begin? Ah, Miss Dorothy. Yes, my darling.
My friend who was in the energy says that there's going to be a UFO on the 14th with the full moon, and the ones that can see will be able to see it with their naked eye, and it'll be over the whole continent.
That would be interdimensional.
Okay.
It's interdimensional. What individuals believe to be like actually coming from another planet
Well,
is interdimensional.
okay, but I mean, even the gurus that she sees and the spiritual guides are saying we're in for a big, big shift, is why I was.
What we would
asking.
like to explain about that is that in order to get through to our physical friends,
Right?
we utilize whatever belief system people have.
True.
So individuals who are in love with Star Trek and interdimensional and flying saucers,
Right.
we utilize that. People who believe in Jesus, we utilize that. People who believe in Allah, we utilize that. We utilize whatever your belief system is when we are coming through. That is why when we say we want you to be able to come through the information, we want it to come through you, is because we have to use Bobby's information. When we send information through, she sees pictures and hears words, and we have to utilize what's so for her. You may have a completely different experience, and so you can see it differently. And so that will be one of the ways. The main thing we're getting across in as many big ways as we can is yes, there is a shift. There is a shift happening. Some of it's going to feel pleasant. Some of it you probably aren't going to like a whole lot. The reason, and we don't say that to scare you. We say that to invite you to pay attention to change does not have to be scary. The change isn't frightening. It's your fear. Your fear is what frightens you. So we are up-leveling our capacity to connect with you on a spiritual level in whatever way we have to get through, so that you will know Spirit is here. If you guys could see right now, the way we are showing it to Bobby is there are hundreds of energy beings floating around. She can see the faces. They're all everywhere present. In reality, they're just energy. But the way we get it through to her is through faces, because she likes faces. Does that clarify for you, my darling?
Right, but, and in addition to this, when my son was on drugs, he said, he used to see spaceships all the time. And then my sister reiterated that that's why they call it spirits. So that when they are on drugs and in alcohol, they do see what.
Right.
So basically they're there all the time. It's like you say, is all I was.
Yes, yes. We're agreeing.
Right,
We're agreeing.
yes.
And you're right, that when people imbibe substances, they have many, many reasons. One of the things that can happen is that it can allow them to be more in touch because their mind is out of the way. Unfortunately, we also notice that sometimes their ability to connect with it
Right.
is hampered because their capacity to bring that information back into their daily lives
I
is
agree.
hampered.
Right.
But it has at least allowed people to see that there is something beyond the physical. Yes. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So for those of you who want to see spaceships, there's going to be a large one on the 14th.
I can offer a doorway for that. In Maui, I was with a shaman who had mushrooms that we ate on a full moon, and I saw about 10 spaceships doing formations in the sky, and that was the only time I've ever seen them with that little helpful doorway.
Didn't
And then I went
Indians
into
do
my
peyote to see the spirits? I mean, didn't-
It was mushrooms.
Okay.
And peyote is another one, and
Yes,
LSD is
peyote,
another one.
I mean, that's what the Indians used to
Yeah.
see spirit.
Yeah.
If you could imagine what you are describing. Okay, now I need the other paper. I'll just use this. What you are describing is, here is your world.
Use a darker color. Thank you.
Here is your world. Here's your world with the spaceships. Here's your world in an alternate time running at the same time you are, where you're having this life here today, but you made a different decision. Instead of showing up here, you stayed home. Well, you're over in this world. And here's your world that the Nazis won. And here's your world where Christ wasn't killed. And here's your world. Do you get what we're speaking of? It's all your world. It's alternate realities. It's alternate realities. And all you need to do
Is make a different decision.
is make a different decision, but to see it, what Kristen did and what your son has done and what this lady is talking about, is you alter your willingness to see, and instead of seeing what you're living in right now,
Okay,
you see the one with the spaceship.
expand.
You expand the knowing about the realities that you exist. This is a hard one for the finite brain to grasp. It really, really wants. The first time we began to show this to Bobby and Roger, they were saying, what do we do with this? What are we supposed to do with alternate realities? How does that help us? Well, if you expand past the belief that this is all there is, you expand into the knowing that in this there is more than there is. One of the examples we have given for Bobby and Roger to do is when they're wanting to move forward in their lives, they go forth and ask us to contact their future successful self that has put on events and ask that self how that happened. And from that space, that self comes back and says what it did to create this event. That being said, the minute you contact the future self without doing it without the future self, you've already got another reality. But the point is that what you call reality is really, give it up. It's not what it seems. And it can be way more than you believe when you know that.
I have a
Yes.
question. Okay, if we know and feel ourselves as an open-hearted person,
Yes.
and there are people in our lives who, either family or friends we have a history with, who are not open-hearted, who are more closed.
Mm-hmm.
Does your illustration help us to understand that maybe they are living in
Or this one or this one?
your circles, your
Okay.
alternate realities? Are they living in a different reality and we're just overlapping? Or
This is a very
and
good
then
question.
is it appropriate? My experience is that interacting with people of closed
Mhm.
hearts is painful,
Yes.
can be painful. But with a history or loyalty, we keep them in our lives. Is that appropriate or inappropriate? Is that useful? Is there an agreement there?
Yes.
Yeah, any help you can
Yes.
give would be
Yes.
appreciated.
All of the above.
Would you like us to elaborate a little bit?
Sure, go for it.
They're in this reality with you, in that you have both chosen this particular playground. They are in an alternate reality, and that they see the playground differently than you do. Let us give an example. We were working with a lady, and we asked her to begin to go out to help heal some of her sadness and begin to notice all the beautiful, loving people in the world. And it must have taken a month for this individual to be able to see beautiful, loving people. And she only saw 2. And her experience was, she mentioned going to a store in town and saying, all the people there, it was Costco, all the people there are grumpy and angry and yelling at their children and miserable. And I went, really? I go there all the time. I go there to graze and eat my way through. And I have great fun there. And I see other people having great fun, and we're talking about the food, and we're laughing, and we're having a good time and meeting people. We're in the same place, but we're in a different reality. In this reality. So you brought up one we hadn't mentioned. Thank you. So within this reality, there are different realities depending on how you look at this reality. That being said, when you are in relationship with someone who doesn't see themselves as a spirit being and whose heart is upside down and who emanates pain and sadness, you have some choices to make. The first and most important choice is to look at how that heart is affecting your heart and begin to heal your heart. Begin to do the work inside you where you look, and we're going to share something, it is for the Ho'oponopono. And this is just a very, very light bit of it. Very, very light. But the mantra is, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And to understand that is a 2-day workshop where he says that it's an hour worth of training, but it takes 2 days for the mind to get it. But what we have suggested for like when Bobby is working with clients, she is looking at them in their pain and she's saying, I love you exactly the way you are and the way you're not. Please forgive me for any confusion I have about your beauty in the world and how fantastic you are and your capacity to heal. I'm sorry if I'm not understanding anything I need to understand. I'm sorry for any of the confusion I'm creating. I'm sorry for my ignorance in this. Please forgive me. Thank you, it is done. So the work is in healing her heart when she is dealing with people in pain. As long as you're going to choose to be on the planet, you're going to run into people in pain. That's just a reality. At the same time, when you hold the knowing and the energy in their presence, if all you're saying is, I love you, 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 I love you. Thank you, I love you, thank you. If you're saying that, magic happens. A shift begins. A shift begins in you. That individual many times will also shift. But if they have a belief that this is as good as it gets, same shit, different day, they're in the middle of a lesson. So what you want to do with that lesson is go, wow, let me love you in that lesson. Let me hold the knowing that you are in the process of healing. Let me hold the vision of you as a healed being, because all of us are healed beings. We have the illusion we're broken. So you hold the knowing that they are whole and complete, and just love them in the middle of it. And when you're in that place of love, their hurt can't get through because it's meeting the love, and the love is turning the heart right side up when it comes to you. You can feel the compassion. But if you know it's their lesson, every one of us has lessons on this planet. Some of us in physical form, some of us in non-physical form. That's part of the journey. That's why we created this playground. So does that answer your question?
It helps a lot. Is it possible that they could also be in service to me to sort of activate
Thank you.
my asking you, how
Thank
do we
you.
do this, you know?
The other part of Ho'opono is whenever anyone comes into your environment that causes you pain, the first question is, wow, well, what about me brought that into my world? What do I need to learn and how do I need to grow in order to move beyond? And again, we want to say that there is a workshop where he goes into much more detail than we are. And we have agreed that we won't teach Ho'opono, but we have to at least mention it because it's very valuable.
I do have that book at home on my bookshelf.
Okay.
Very, very.
Like,
And she's a hula dancer.
Okay. And so the first question any of you should ask when you're confused or in pain or upset or angry with somebody is not why are they making me angry? Why have they upset me? But, ooh, I brought that one into my life. For what am I seeking healing? Why have I brought that particular individual into my life at this moment?
or for the entire lifetime, or for 20 years, or
Same thing. What was the lesson you were seeking? And what we can share, okay, I get to come through. This is Bobby. Occasionally I pop up and share my stuff. What I've noticed is as I've worked with spirit and as I've moved more into the positive healing energy, there are people in my life I still love, but they just don't want to hang out with me anymore. You know, I love them and they love me, but it's not a match. It's not like I shoved them away. Well, some of them I kind of did. But it's just the energy shifts. And when I'm in their presence, I can hold them in love, but it shifts. It doesn't mean there are no people who come into my life who are in pain, because part of what I do for a living and part of what I've agreed to do with Gregory and the continuum is to be of service to people who are seeking. So of course there are individuals who are seeking, but there's a whole bunch that isn't there anymore that used to be.
so I can let go of fear of that they're toxic to me.
Absolutely. They cannot harm you without your permission. We want you all to hear this. No one can harm you without your permission. Eleanor Roosevelt, beautiful, brilliant lady, said that no one can diminish me without my permission. And that is true for all spiritual beings. You can choose to dance with them, and you can choose to deal with your feelings about it, but when you transmute the energy to pure positive love, magic happens. We must warn you, as Bobby has found out, that sometimes the magic is people go away. Sometimes she wasn't expecting it. We remember one really fun one before she was even aware of our presence. Well, she was aware because we did magic all the time, but she was not in this state. And she had put out a great wanting to have a relationship of hers clarified and firmed up. And she was thinking marriage, and he left. It got very firm. It was not meant to be. It was not a match, and she wanted a match. What she didn't know she was asking for was a match. So sometimes when you ask for the clarity, it doesn't always take the format you want, but it always takes the format you need. And if you trust us, that will happen. Does that answer?
A lot, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, some of the folks I'm referring to might be parents,
Mhm.
elderly parents, and they're very strongly in the belief that this is all there is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to when they make the transition. Will it be possible? Well, of course, it's all possible. I don't want to say, Mom, I told you so, but you know.
Yes, she does.
It's okay, I was right there.
Thank you for permission to say that out loud. I guess I would like to participate in their relief and their ending of their fears. And
Again, holding the love, saying, I love you, because what you're dealing with is your fear about their fear, your fear about their worry. you're upset about their upset. When you work with you and you're in the moment and you're in the healing of your considerations, when you clean the board of your considerations and you can be in their presence in the absolute knowing that all is well, you will radiate that. They will gather from that which they need. And the rest of it's really their journey. When you love somebody and you want to do for them, we will say, not only can you not, my darlings, you don't have the right. If we have to give you free will, you have to give your physical friends free will. There are sometimes people say, how come God doesn't do this for me? Well, because the agreement when we came here was that you had the right to do your life your own way. You have the right. This is your journey. We will participate, we will assist you, we will be there for you, but it is your journey. That's true. We would like to suggest it would be very helpful if you would do that with each of your other physical friends. It would be much easier, because if we can't make you guys do what we think you should do sometimes, how much chance do you have of making each other do it? We've tried.
Thank you.
We've been working on, we got her down to 1 cup of coffee. Those of you who have been here before know Gregory's been trying to get me off caffeine for 20 years. Yes. Yes.
I just want to say, I've just been overwhelmed with these tears of gratitude just to be here today. And I'm just, it's such a marvelous experience already. I'm just full of gratitude for being in all of your presence. I don't know who you are yet, all of you, but I'm just so grateful to be here because I've read so much about you, and I'm so delighted to be here. So these are just welling up of tears of joy. I'm so glad to be here.
Yes.
And I just want to say something about maintaining your own reality. A metaphor or a picture that works really well for me. I had this idea before I saw it presented in a film, the What the Bleep Do We Know?
Yes.
I consider, staying in the reality that we want is like walking on the basketball court, where you see that semi-permeable membrane, and beyond it is all the other realities that you could choose.
Mm-hmm.
But when you step on that basketball court, that is the one that you choose, and it takes actually emotional strength, mental strength to maintain that. But it's that I think is an excellent metaphor that works for me, is stepping on that and maintaining the strength that it takes to see only that which you want.
Yes, very true. And the knowing when she turns away, for those of you who haven't seen how many of you haven't seen What the Bleep? Okay, there's a metaphor there where, remember when I was drawing all the circles? The basketball, there's 20 basketballs dancing on the court, but when she turns around and looks at it, it becomes one basketball. She turns away and there's a multitude of basketballs. She turns around and looks and there's one basketball. What we focus on creates our reality. When you turn away from the court and all the possibilities happen, if you don't like what's on the court, you have the option of choosing to turn back with a different viewpoint. And that's very, very true. There are times that we watch our physical friends wake up and something happens and they decide it's going to be a rather unpleasant day. Your wishes are commanded. And in that, you create an unpleasant day. If you're in the middle of an unpleasant experience, you go inside, you center. You ask what it is you really want to create for the rest of that day. You choose that, and if you ask spiritual guidance to assist you, it will be even more powerful. You turn back to the basketball court and you create the day. That's being responsible and being co-conscious with us. Excellent. And we are grateful that you brought you here too. Yes, you are grateful not only that you are here with us, but that thank you for bringing you here to share with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. More questions? Yes.
The entelechy is the higher self. It's explained like 4% of us is in physical body and the other 96% of us is in non-physical form. And that 96% that's in non-physical form, and those are just figures,
Right.
is our higher self, our essence, the thing that guides us, that we talk to. So Adrian was saying who you are, and so I was wondering if you could shed more light on the part of us that's in non-physical form that we connect with, so that we aren't alone. That yellow circle outside the semi-permeable blue membrane that we think we are.
And how do we encourage that connection?
Yeah.
Because as Peggy says, sometimes there is this feeling of being alone. And we forget, we've agreed to forget, and now we're trying to
Good
agree
words.
to remember. And
So, this yellow energy, this essence of who you really are, my darlings, let us take a second to gather how to connect and say this. You are all part of all that is. The energy that runs the universe. And when you choose to come play in this playground, you gather together an energy that is connected to all that is, but connected to here. It is accurate, depending on the individual, that only a small percent is here and a huge percent is still connected to all that is. So that if you imagine the white light around the body being out here, and then I focus the energy into this space, and I manifest this illusion of a body, and I move this about the planet, and I have interactions, and I have experiences, and I do life here. This here is what's creating this here. Now, in order to keep you on the planet, is the best way we can explain this. And this is like explaining physics in kindergarten. No offense, my darlings, okay? So we're doing the best we can. It's like taking the cosmos and putting it. We created what is called an ego. Now, many times your religions have made egos bad and wrong. That's not true. Your ego is what keeps you on the planet. We needed something that was molecularly connected to the planet. You're the hair that grows on the planet, okay? And the hair is attached through the ego. Only the hair can move, which some of you have that issue anyway. Sorry, my darling, we had that.
that explains the chin hairs. It's me.
Yeah. Your hair.
More connection.
All right, here. So the ego is what keeps you connected to the planet, because molecularly it's similar to the planet. It has connection. The ego is what allows you to believe that this is all there is. And we had to create it because in past incarnations, in many of those different worlds we tried seeing how it worked when you were more spiritual, and we found if you're too spiritual, you just disembody the body. Your yogis can do that. There are yogis who are able to, when they decide to cross over, they don't die. They just disappear their body, or some of them disappear out of their bodies, and their bodies don't even stink for several days. It still has the energy. And this has been documented. These are enlightened beings who know that they're not the body. Well, we didn't want y'all to do that. We wanted you to stay here and play so that we could have fun playing and so that we could move forward. And so we created this thing called an ego. And its job is if a bus is coming, you need to know to get out of the way of the bus. Spirit knows the bus could go right through you and you'd be fine. Ego knows you got a body and it ain't gonna last that. Okay. So the ego is what keeps you connected. The spirit is what creates the body moving forward. The ego is the molecular structure that keeps you connected to the earth. And it is the receiver of the information that you have of this is a house and those are trees and these are people and this is a room. That's the ego's knowing. Spirit, were it seeing what's really happening here, spirit would only be seeing energy. It would only see this. It would only see vibrations. And as fun as that is, it doesn't allow you to have the experience on the planet. So that doesn't give you an exact, but when you feel cut off from spirit, that's when ego can begin to believe that it's all there is. We needed a piece of that knowing to keep you on the planet. That I am important, I need to be on the planet, I need to be physical, I have a job to do here. But when ego begins to believe I'm all there is, I'm bigger than spirit. Spirit is that little thing inside of me and I am in charge. That's where the problems come in because ego says I'm better than you, I'm bigger than you, my beliefs are better than yours, and that's where the problems come in. So when you find yourself in that place, and you can feel it, how you know is you feel that niggly feeling. It's the best word we've got, niggly. You know, it just doesn't feel real comfortable. It doesn't feel expansive. It feels mean might be another word. When you're in that space and you notice it, that's spirit. That's spirit saying, hello. And when you hear that, what we would suggest you do is stop whatever it is you're doing. Take a moment and take a big deep breath in. So all of you right now, take a big deep breath in. Hold it and breathe out. Your breathing in is your decision to stay here, and you are bringing spirit into you to continue another moment on the planet. Your breathe out is faith that you're going to have another breath in. Every breath is a choice to be here. When you feel that niggly feeling, breathe in spirit. Breathe in the knowing that spirit is ever present. Pay attention to that. And then ask spirit to be your guide. And then when the ego starts going, yeah, the spirit's talking about it, that person really is shitty, you should look at him. You breathe in again. And vision this, knowing. Walk in beauty as the light. Be in that essence and that energy and that knowing. We rather got off track, but that's the best we could do, trying to bring physics to kindergarten.
I have a question. I'd rather not admit, but occasionally I find myself as the person with the upside down heart
Yes.
that's not radiating kindness. I don't want to stay there. So how's the easiest way, or easiest, that's not a good word.
It is okay.
Okay.
What
how's
we
the
had just
easiest way to
described a moment
transition?
ago is you breathe in the spirit, you ask spiritual guidance, you admit, this is very, very important, and we are glad you have asked this question, because everyone here, including Bobby, goes through times where she is not emanating. Believe me, we're inside her head. She doesn't always emanate goodness and light. I guess I got outed. And in those moments, that is when you're being human. It's not a bad thing. It's just part of being here. When you find yourself, think how you feel in those moments. Does it feel juicy, delightful, pleasant? So that is merely your internal guidance system. Our friend Abraham speaks of this through Esther. The internal guidance system of your emotions. When you don't feel on task, when you don't feel aligned, when you don't feel vibrant, that's merely your internal guidance system saying you are off course. Do you know how they get to the moon? The rocket doesn't go from here to the moon. It goes off course corrects, off course corrects, off course corrects, off course corrects until it reaches the moon. Well, that's how you reach spirit. So when you're in that space and you hear that verbiage and you feel those yucky feelings, it's like, well, this is rather not pleasant. How might I turn this around? We suggest the 3 deep breathing because you've gotten used to doing that with our presence. We suggest that you ask spiritual alignment, and we suggest that you reach for a little bit better thought. And this is another thing we will borrow from our friend Abraham, but we also have said this. If you are looking at a person and saying, oh God, look at that grungy homeless person. Oh, he's so dirty. Why doesn't he get a job? Oh, hold it. Perhaps that's somebody who really did have a good life at one time and is not able to hold on to the pure positive energy. You know, there are people who say that could be Jesus sitting there giving us a lesson in compassion. Perhaps what I need to find here is some compassion, but God, he stinks. Oy. Wow, why can't he bathe if he's Perhaps I can send love because what's happening is his incapacity to know that he's a pure positive energy and a child of God. And I can reach for that and know that there's a better way to hold this person, and I'm going to see that person healed. And I'm going to see that person alive and vibrant. And I'm going to know that that's possible. So you begin to look at that. Now, let's use one that's a little more difficult.
Honestly, the homeless guy isn't so hard for me.
Yes. That's why we're using one more difficult. Let's use a relative. Pick the relative of your choice. We know you all have them. What we want you to remember is you're frequently a relative to them. That's why we say it's all relative. So pick the relative of your choice who is being obnoxious, completely ignorant, without any redeeming value. How dare they do whatever they're doing? And you look at them and you think, we're going to search Bobby's memory banks for a specific relative. Okay, we have. And we're going to let her do this one. Okay. I won't name the relative. Oh, God. What a negative person. Being in her presence. Oh, my goodness. Wow, this is not pleasant. Okay. But, you know, being in her presence reminds me of how I used to be an awful lot like that. And her gift to me is that I can see that although I get in that negativity, because I wouldn't see it if I didn't still have it, that I have grown. And that if I can grow, she can grow. And her gift to me is seeing what my fear thoughts look like when I'm caught in them. Because that's all that negativity is her fear thoughts. And she and I used to play several rounds of Ain't It Awful. It used to be where we lived. The whole family got together at Christmas and Thanksgiving and played it. And so when I see that still manifesting, I go, wow, thank you for showing me. Thank you for the enlightenment of what I need to do differently to not be there. So it's a process. I'm making it sound very easy because what I'm not sharing is the several rounds of how inappropriate, obnoxious, blah, 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 blah. You know, that doesn't take just a second. It may take me a half hour to realize I'm doing it. Do you get what we're speaking of, darling? You have to change the thoughts. You have to reach for a little bit better thought. You don't have to. We invite you to reach for a better thought. We invite you to think a more positive thought. We invite you to look at the gift that individual has brought you. And we invite you to realize that you could not see the negativity in them if it weren't still in you. So here's where the cleanup work needs to happen. Does that make sense? Excellent.
It makes sense.
You need more bubble play.
And when we hear the but it's hard. My darling, how hard is it to stay stuck in the unhappiness and the angry feeling and the better than and the resentment? How hard is it to live there? Which is harder, really? Living in the misery of the anger and the upset, or taking the effort to be responsible and move into the pure positive energy? Which one's more rewarding?
The positive energy.
All of them take effort. It's just what is the result you want. So when you're at that apex, look at the road as a Y, and look at the road if you go down the anger, resentment, upset, all that stuff. And it takes a lot of energy to hold that anger. Believe me, we watch it. You should see the colors coming out of you guys when you're holding on to anger. And then look down the Y road of the pure positive energy. This is not familiar.
Right.
This is a stretch. This is different. But when you get used to going down this road, it gets easier and easier and easier and easier. If you keep going down this road, it gets easier and easier and easier and easier.
Until you become that homeless man sitting on a corner,
Yeah.
as your hate is eating you up.
Yeah.
There by the grace of God go I.
Yeah. You got it.
Or some people prefer that lifestyle because it represents freedom to them.
That's
So-
true, but the ones that prefer it don't usually look really unhappy and miserable.
Yeah.
They're the ones with the backpacks on and the smile on their face.
I have another.
Or the guy on the bicycle that rides around town with the 10-foot beard and the big frizzy hair with a smile plastered on his face as he's going along.
I have another question
Yes.
relating to that. Sometimes it's hard to choose that other road, the better road, because of righteous indignation.
Oh,
Or It
yes.
feels so, you are right, it feels so delicious to stay there, and I know that ego is just saying, yes, we're right, we need to stay here. So it's really hard to get past righteous indignation. Would you have some, other than, I think it's at the where the two roads part, when you're trying to make that decision.
There are
and the
two ways you
energy.
can do it. You can do the one we suggested first, or you can absolutely play righteousness out to its nth degree. Get as righteous and superior and better than, and just really feel it. And knowing you are not going to stay there. There are people we wouldn't suggest that to. But better than will reach an apex where it implodes on itself when it's not where you vibrate.
Really get into the drama then and enjoy it, and
Yeah.
realizing that's what you're doing to get to that
And
other
see how that
place.
feels. See how that feels. Really feel that righteous indignation, that superiority. Say the words, I'm better than you. I know I'm better than you. I'm far superior. Why are you breathing? And if you find you like being there, we really want you to work on the other part of the road. Then take a moment to say, I love you. I love me enough to not stay in that place. I love me enough to not be righteous. I love me enough to love you. And believe me, that will dissipate.
Thank you.
And remember, if you don't have the answer, ask your spirit guide.
Yes, very good.
Guide? Whoever's taking it on at that moment. I'm conscious, man.
Yes.
So does positive sometimes attract negative in people?
Does positive,
I've noticed that sometimes when I approach people in the positive, that if they're not having a good day, they can sometimes be cruel.
yes. And you get to choose at that moment to maintain the positive. There is a particular friend of Bobby's who, when she will come back, and she does it half kiddingly, half seriously, when Bobby will say something about holding on to the positive and looking for the value, she's, oh, gag me. It's like, God, do you have to do that crap all the time? To which there was a point where, before we had worked with her a lot, she would back off and go, oh, I guess I can't be positive. My friend won't like me if I'm positive. I have to join her in her negative so we can belong. And now we encourage her, and most of the time she will. Sometimes she will join them, especially if she's got a bit of negative going on in herself anyway.
Yeah.
But most of the time she will say, yes, I do have to be positive. I know you think it's silly, but it's where the energy is. And I want to stay in this pure positive energy. And I know you're feeling negative, and I know you can't see it right now, and I'm just going to love both of us until we get there. And then she'll say, God. And she'll say, it's okay. God heard you. So, yes, there are some individuals. The beauty of it that we have noticed with all of our physical friends is when you stay in that positive energy, eventually those negative people are not going to want to hang around you anymore. So it's a win-win. They don't have to put up with your positive, and you don't have to put up with their negative. So it's a choice of staying in that energy. What happens is, energetically what happens is, like, you send out the positive, it bounces off, and they go, no, I don't want it. But a little bit gets in. And if you stay in the positive, they bounce it off, but a little bit gets in. Well, often ego is in full charge at that point. They're going to go away with imagine little stars of positive sifted in there as maybes. And you just go about your merry way holding on to your positive, because you've got bunches of stars in you. So again, it's a choice. Do you want to join them in their negative, or hold on to your positive and plant some stars?
I see.
Yes. Time. Okay, how are we doing on time?
Wait, we are there.
Okay, were there any other?
Yes?
Well, we'll have lots of room for more questions.
Okay.
But were there any more over here that needed to be asked before we take a break? You would have to give up some of your break time in order to. Do you want a 15-minute break or a 10-minute break? One more question?
5 minutes is good.
Yeah, this is good.
Let's have her ask the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned emotions, and I'm familiar with Abraham's teachings about
Yes.
our emotions acting kind of like a compass or a barometer.
Mhm.
If we notice that we're feeling negative, then we can choose to go to our happy place. I thought emotions were a tool of our physical apparatus that help us, but it sounds like maybe emotions are not, that they are in a continuum, that we will still feel emotions in the non-physical. Is that right? You talked about your friend, Abraham.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking, okay, there's an emotional bond there. Is that accurate?
Yes and no. In non-physical, it doesn't have the intensity, and yet it's more. Okay. Our friend Abraham, we are all one. We know we are all one, yet we have chosen to do different pieces of this journey, coming through different apparatus with different information. So if we were to give you an analogy, Abraham is 98.6 and we're 98.8. Okay. We're just coming through the apparatus. It's all energy. It's all love. And in that way, there is not hate. There is compassion. There is love.
Is there sadness?
Concern. But not sadness because everything's a lesson. Everything is learning. I mean, when one blade of grass doesn't grow, do you cry or do you know another blade's coming?
Is there fear? So fear is not...
No, because you can't get it wrong and you're never done. That which Abraham has spoken is absolutely true. So in non-physical, there is connection, would be a better word than emotion. In the physical body, you have emotion because you have belief about lack. You have belief in death. You have belief in loss. You have belief in right, wrong. You have beliefs that we have given ego so you could learn this lesson and play with this journey. But those beliefs are what give you connection to emotion. There are some of your spiritual teachings that say, we want you to have no attachment. As long as you're growing on the planet, you're attached. We rigged it that way, guys. The game's rigged. You're going to be attached. The trick is how attached to what? The emotions are a guidance system. When you are crying tears of joy, that's not an issue. It's the emotion is so powerful, the connection is so strong, it overwhelms the body's current capacity to let that energy through at that volume. When you get so you can let it through at that volume, you'll just go, woo, okay. Sorrow tears are another thing. Sorrow tears are lack and grief and oh, I want it and I can't have it. And oh, so-and-so died, and oh, I lost the love of my life. And it's just, it's being attached to the illusion. But it's part of the game. It's part of the game you will play. There's no wrong to it. Where we want you to use it is if you wish you were dead because somebody you love died. You got it all wrong. That's a powerful, powerful time for you to turn to Spirit and say, Spirit, guide me in the knowing that this is right action. We're going to challenge you even more. There are wars going on the planet. We challenge you to find out how that is serving. Not that we want you to continue it. We would really, really like you to learn to love each other enough that you don't have to kill each other if you don't agree. But those that are participating in that drama are learning a lesson. It's all lessons. It's all grist for the mill. The flower does not die. It decomposes. And something new is born out of everything that happens.
So the emotions are more tied to the frequency that we're vibrating at? Would that be more accurate?
Yes.
So it's not, so if strongly here in the physical I'm so sad, I'm vibrating, but if I'm happy and I'm joyous and I'm enjoying my friends and we're singing and dancing and
Yes.
so I'm getting more in a closer to what our true
Yes.
frequency
Yes.
is.
Yes. Singing and dancing is a perfect example. That is one of the closest vibrations. Music is the closest vibration to spirit. And dancing. And when you're in that space, we're that multiplied 1 billion times infinity. Can you see how there is no hate?
Yeah,
It doesn't exist in that space.
right.
Can you dance and sing and hate at the same time? It's
Not
not
very
possible.
well. Okay, can I ask another one?
One more.
What?
Yes.
Personality. Okay, here's this joyous personality here.
Mhm.
When she decides to leave her physical apparatus,
Mhm.
does she, or say if she wasn't joyous, does the essence of her personality still exist? Or is personality something we put on when we come into this physical?
Yes and yes. You must understand that all of the dimensions are infinity times infinity. So there is an essence of you. Once you have been, you always are. Once the ego and the spirit energy exists, it always exists. That being said, when it goes back to the light, it exists in a much, we don't want to use the word diluted, but it's kind of a diluted. It goes back to the energy. And it can come in and go out of that energy more freely. So the spirit exists, the ego exists, it's all part of everything, it's part of that would take probably a week-long seminar if we could even put it into words. But just know that once something exists, it always exists, and it's different when it's not in the physical body.
Okay, so I can rest easy knowing that Adrian and I can continue to play and sing and dance in
always.
another dimension.
Absolutely.
Or go shopping or whatever.
Yes, absolutely. You all do. You all do. You continue to exist. It's just different than here. And we will have time for more questions later. We do need to let people who have to go to the bathroom. And we do want to stay kind of on track.
It's my job, unfortunately, sorry.
Yes. Very good. So
Good job.
we need just a few minute break.
Yes,
And,
well, we will meet in the living room at, let's see what we've got here.
You'll